Gather around, I've got a story to tell about a red-headed lady ain't been doing so well. Hey y'all, how's it going? I'm Janet, Mrs. Farmer Brown, and I do have a bit of a story to tell. I'm going to make this video one all by itself. So, y'all may have been wondering, I know I've been seeing comments, oh, you're back. Well, yes and no. About a year ago this month, one of our sons became the pastor at a little church up the road from here, which we now belong to, Chewacla Baptist Church. And as I got to thinking about it, I thought, we'd reach more people if the Sunday services were on YouTube. So I thought, well, what skills do I have that God has given me that I can use to further His kingdom? And one of the things I thought of was doing exactly that, making videos of church service on Sunday mornings and posting it on YouTube, which I have been doing since the first part of January of this year, every Sunday, except when we've been out of town. And here recently, I've had other people recording for me so that I could still continue to put those services on the channel. Okay, that's an every Sunday thing, and that does take some time, at least a whole day and a half of filming, editing, and getting it onto YouTube. So that's kind of cut down my craft time. Then on top of that, the next thing that happened with the church is they were able, after 20 years, to build a new fellowship center across the street from the church. And that's great, but it had zero landscaping, and it just was not attractive. So I asked the deacons and talked to some other people, and I offered to kind of design some landscaping for the front of that, but there really wasn't money to do that. So the next thing was to organize an Easter event, which I did along with my daughter-in-law and a couple of other people from the church, and it was a lot of work. But you know what? God is good. We raised enough money almost to entirely cover the cost of the plantings and the irrigation and all of that stuff. Church paid a little bit extra for what we were a little short. It was around, I think, $300 short. The next thing was that the inside and outside of the actual church building, along with the 2 planters that we did in the landscape bed over there at the Fellowship Center, not in the landscape bed, we had 2 planters besides the landscape bed. Those are real plants. Well, they kind of need to be changed out seasonally. There were no flower arrangements in the church except for one that they kind of used all the time. And outside the church, there were 2 urns, metal urns. They tried to plant real flowers in those every now and then. They never lived because you have to water that all the time. And nobody was going over there once a week to fertilize water. So I really needed to use faux flowers outside. I'm not a fan of fake flowers, but I want to tell you what, they make some nice ones now, and on Amazon there are several that are pretty good. In fact, in the next video you're about to see of me decorating my porch, I use some of them, and I always link anything I can. I link in the description box below the video in case you're interested in purchasing the same thing or something like it. It's a quick link to jump you there. Anyway, spring arrangements, got those done in April. Then June rolled around, had to do summer arrangements. July, we always spend a week or so in Texas at my mom's house with family, those that can come. And this past year, I'm so grateful. The entire family was there. my boys and their kids and wives, and then my brother Steve, who passed away in 2020, his family was all there too. I think we had like 18 or 19 people, including my mother. And it was a lot of fun. And I'm really glad we did it, because I'm about to tell you why. Fast forward to September, actually in August, I had to start doing fall arrangements for the church. And the ones I did for the outside of the doors, here's a quick picture, they took quite a while to make. So between doing that and also purchasing flowers for fall over at the Fellowship Center, that took August and September. Still no time for crafting. In the middle of that, we had decided to start redoing our kitchen. You may have seen the kitchen video part 1, and there are some crafts in it. So if you're interested in crafts, take a look at that video that's on my channel. Somehow or another in September, I don't know what I did. Maybe because I wore flip-flops all the time, and on our gravel driveway, maybe I kind of twisted my foot or something, stepped to the outside, I'm not sure. But the inside of my right ankle, up the side a little bit, was really starting to hurt. And I thought, oh no, plantar fasciitis again. Because I've had that before. It wasn't that. Then I thought, well, maybe it was a break, because I've done that before too and was in a boot. It wasn't even a hairline fracture. It was a pulled tendon. I did not find that out until I finally got a doctor's appointment a month later from it hurting. And now I'm in a lovely boot. Not boot, brace. Not quite as bad as the boot, but close. And y'all, just a side note, I turned 65 in April. You know what that brace cost? $1,058. Thank goodness I didn't have to pay for it, because I'd already met my Medicare deductible along with my gap insurance, supplemental insurance. So Medicare insurance paid for that. They did not pay for the custom orthotics that I have to now wear all the time in my shoes. We paid that. Another $350. So in October, for the last few years, we've always gone to Texas to visit my mom for her birthday. And we did that, I think, on October 16th. Her birthday's the 19th. She turned 92. It was really a very nice visit, although my mother was getting notably weaker and weaker. She has to use a rollator all the time. Because in 2006, when she was visiting here, we were going to the Auburn football game to see my son Mark perform. He was in the band his senior year. She fell on the way into the stadium. We never even got to see Mark, and she had broken her hip. So she didn't have a complete hip surgery. She had a partial. And she was great for 6 years. In 2012, it was really starting to hurt her. And the doc in Texas couldn't really figure out what was going on. She kept going back every month or so. And also that year in January, she burned up her kitchen. And I think it was 9 trips to Texas that year, because I designed her kitchen along with the help of my oldest son, Matt, who's an architect, lives in Michigan. And I went back several times. And when I went back in February to meet with the contractors, get everything going, find a cabinet man, get it all going, my mother had said, I think you and I can pull up this tile in this kitchen to save $200. And I'm like, no. I'm going home tomorrow, Mom. We are not going to chip up tile. And don't you do it either. Well, I leave. Guess what? The next day I'm getting a phone call from my brother Steve, and he put Mom on the phone. She had fallen and broken her wrist because what was she trying to do? Pull up the tile. She didn't fall off the stool. She was pulling a box full of that heavy tile because she was throwing the tile in the box, and she slipped and fell and broke her wrist in 3 places. So back I go to Texas. That was in late February, early March. Then toward the end of April, she finally got the doctor to really look at what was going on with her hip. Well, it was necrosis, which means deterioration of the bone. And the parts that they had put in her left hip were causing the necrosis. And I even looked into, is this a company that people are suing because of this? It ended up none of that was working out. Nevertheless, she had to have a full hip replacement. 3 weeks later, 1st of June, I went back to pick her up out of rehab and take her home, and I looked at her hip and I said, Mom, this doesn't look right. This is infected. Took her back to the doctor. She had staph. So, she was back in the hospital. They opened her up, took the parts out, flushed it out. That was a few days. Then they put another hip thing in. Then she was in a hospital for 6 weeks because she had to have drip IV antibiotic for the staph infection. I mean, that year was a nightmare. I say all this to say that when they were fixing her hip, a nerve was wrapped around her, one of the parts that had to be removed, and they damaged it, and she ended up with drop foot. So probably she could walk a little bit without a cane or anything for a few years, but about 5 years ago she really started having to use a cane, and then that escalated to a rollator, a three-wheel rollator. Don't get those. Get a 4-wheel with a seat. Anyway, we returned home from our trip in October on October 20th. It was a Monday, day after her birthday. Drove the 14 hours and got home, and I thought, oh, yay, I can get back now to trying to finish all my videos of fall decorating. I was already behind all the other YouTubers, but, you know, kind of whatever. I don't care about that. But I get a call. The very next day, around lunchtime, my cousin across the street, Lucy, stop scratching, called me. Mom's medical alert did not alert, probably because she didn't have it charged. Anyway, I get a call from my cousins, your mom is falling, and she can't get up. They had called the medics. Paramedics were there and trying to convince her to take her to the hospital. And my cousin Barbara, I'm on the phone with her. She says, your mother doesn't want to go. She says she's just fine. She just can't walk or stand up. This is so my mother. I said, put her on the phone. I said, Mama, you're going to the hospital. And oh, by the way, I'm the last sibling. I'm it for her. I'm the only one living. Both my older brothers are with Jesus, and so is my dad. And there was a long pause on the phone when I told her she was going, and her first excuse not to go was, I'm not dressed. I'm in my robe and gown. I said, that doesn't matter, Mama. They're going to put you in a hospital gown anyway. So when that didn't work, there was another pause, and then the woman says, but I don't have any makeup on. I hope y'all are laughing. Everybody that knows Nita Fern Lax knows, yeah, that sounds like Nita. Anyway, I said, oh, that's just so terrible, Mama. You're 92. Oh, my word, they're going to so be looking at your face, and you don't have makeup on. You're going to the hospital to get checked out. You don't even know if you broke anything or not. Wouldn't I hurt if I broke a bone? Not necessarily, Mom. So she goes. All day long, we were waiting on x-rays. By the way, she broke nothing. They did a CAT scan on her brain to make sure she hadn't had a stroke. She hadn't. I knew exactly what she did. She picked up the TV remote in her living room that has very thick carpet on it, and she's wiggling along with the remote control in her dominant right hand. And she's wiggling along because she doesn't have strength enough in her fingers to be able to press the remote from 10, 15 feet away. She has to get close to the TV. So she's wheeling along, and I know she didn't have her right hand totally on that rollator. It was the left hand, and it went like this and went down, and then she went down. So that's what happened. Thankfully, she had her phone, her house phone, in her rollator, in the little basket, so she was able to call for help. Barbara and Phil, my cousins. So all that afternoon that day, I thought, Lord, you got to help me. I don't know what to do. She's not going to be able to go home right away. I know that, if at all. Please help me. And you know what? Of course he did. The first thing I looked at online that day was an organization called A Place for Mom. Y'all, if you're in this situation, contact these people. By the end of that afternoon, I had found a great assisted living place for her. They had also put me in contact with Patriot Angels organization because my dad was a vet in the Korean War. And what that meant, if Mom qualified, which there are a lot of hurdles to figure that out, she could get what's called aid and assistance benefits from the VA. And it's not chump change, y'all. I think she's going to qualify for the full amount, which is $1,515. That helps a lot between her Social Security and that to pay the rent for an assisted living facility. Of course, there's care, a la carte menu care on top of that with whatever amount of assistance she needs, which isn't small. So 9 days after our first trip to Texas, we are traveling back to Texas while my mom is in rehab for 2 weeks. And I also had found out that the assisted living facility is not full of furniture. You have to bring it yourself. So that was another hurdle, and I wanted to bring things from her home as much as possible to make her feel at home, because that was really the most important thing to Mom, still is. She wanted to go home to Jesus from her house. And it makes me really sad that she can't do that. Anyway, in the midst of getting her whole house and everything situated, the apartment, visiting her, getting her up there, and talking to all of these different agencies. Oh my word. Do you know how many people I've added in my phone since all this happened? 19. 19 new names to deal with from all of these agencies. It's pretty overwhelming. The day before we were going to move her in, the day before she was discharged, we had to get over there pretty quickly because the lady was going to come assess her for what her needs were. Well, unfortunately, that night before, I knew that I had a UTI. You getting the picture here that maybe the devil was so after me? Because he was. So that morning we went to urgent care. Got the diagnosis, went over to the Walgreens to pick up my meds. And on this shoe, this weird brace, and these new shoes, they came untied. And I bent down to tie them. And half the shoelace just broke. Have you ever had a shoelace break? Never in my life. I thought, okay. So I hobbled into Walgreens with untied shoe. Got my medicine, looked for shoelaces, thought they gotta have white shoelaces, right? Who doesn't carry white shoelaces? No. The only ones they carried were these brown ones. And they were 72 inches long. You could tie 3 shoes together with 72-inch long shoelaces. Anyway, I knotted them and cut them off. It's just, It's just part of the story, y'all, that things just kept happening. Oddly enough, I held it together until the drive home. I highly recommend you listen to a song. It's called Strong by Ann Wilson. That song, when I wasn't listening to it, before I went to bed late at night and saying a prayer that got us through the day and to help us the next day. If I wasn't listening to the song, I was rolling the words around in my head. And it helped me a lot. Oddly enough, it's a song that my husband, about, a couple months ago, said, you need to do this song in church. And I listened to it, and I was like, it's a wonderful song, but wow, there's not a lot of room to take a breath in that song. It's a little bit fast. Nevertheless, whether I do it justice or not, I'm probably going to sing that song tomorrow in church, because it got me through all of this mess. So, if you're struggling, go to YouTube. Strong by Ann Wilson. I'm going to wrap up this little video here to say that I have had so many videos partially done for weeks, but all of these things have just interrupted the flow of life. So today, grandkids are coming over. We usually keep them on Saturday, so we are keeping them. And I will explain what we're going to plant in a little planter up front, and I think the kids will probably want to help me do that. So in a few days, I'll have the decorating the porch for fall video up. Next would be my living room. Third would be the dining table, decorating for Thanksgiving for fall. And lastly, I'm hoping by then the kitchen video part 2 will be completed, because all we were waiting on was the man that does the copper countertops, and he started yesterday and we'll be back on Monday. So hopefully that will all be finished this week. So thanks for listening to me and my subscribers. I hope this kind of explains to you what's been going on in my life. I guess I'll say bye. Keep looking up. Have a good